also follow us at TheMandatory TKO and hit that like and subscribe button if you like the content. We got to move over to some beef that's going on. This has been going on for quite some time. Essentially since last year, since Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis essentially fought. And there was a post-fight interview, and Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions were not at Ryan Garcia's side. Now, this feud, as you might call it, I like to call it beef, this is continuing. So Oscar De La Hoya, he did tweet out, and I'm going to actually go to his tweet. He said that Ryan Garcia and Jose Ramirez was close. Ryan Garcia then tweeted, and remember, this was all kind of confirmed as well by Michael Benson, but I'm going to get to the actual tweets. Ryan Garcia tweeted, "No Ramirez, let's make that clear." He then tweeted, "Ryan Garcia versus Oscar De La Hoya at this point." So, Bryan, what are your thoughts on Ryan Garcia saying no to Jose Ramirez, which I do believe would be a really good fight at 140? I don't know how much of an appetite there is for it because Jose Ramirez has been missing in action, but this would be a good fight at 140. So I'm not mad at Oscar De La Hoya for trying to make it happen. But how do you feel about this beef that's going on between them?
And of course, Oscar De La Hoya is going to try to make that happen because he just signed Jose Ramirez, right? And which is a big signing. Again, ESPN had the 140 division, and it just gave it all up to basically the zone, really. Yeah,
that's really telling to me.
Yeah,
like when we think about everything, even with what happened with Showtime. I don't want to get into that spiel, but all of it's very telling. But go on.
Yeah, I think ultimately, look, Ryan Garcia, Jose Ramirez is a good fight, but I think Ryan Garcia's issue is he wants a money fight. They wanted Rolly Romero. Oscar De La Hoya said that Rolly Romero, who shouldn't have that title to begin with, priced himself out, right? And whatever details he will eventually let us know, sure, okay, whatever. I don't particularly care that much because everyone prices himself out in this sport, and this is why fights don't get made. Ryan Garcia, Jose Ramirez is a good fight. I think Ryan Garcia cares about money and making big fights, which is why he wanted Devin Haney, which is why Rolly Romero is more appealing to him than Jose Ramirez, other than the fact that, hey, he probably beats Rolly Romero, whereas Jose Ramirez would give Ryan Garcia some
a run for his money. He would give him a run for his money for sure. That would be a very, very tough fight for Ryan Garcia, probably the toughest since Tank Davis.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Ryan Garcia doesn't want to fight Arnold Barboza if he's not going to fight Jose Ramirez. No disrespect, because I think what he's looking at is just social media presence. Like he's looking at numbers, right? One of the things.
Well, here's the thing though. If I'm Ryan Garcia and I'm not going to fight Jose Ramirez, I'm not fighting Arnold Barboza Jr. In fact, if I'm Oscar De La Hoya, put Jose Ramirez and Arnold Barboza Jr. in a fight. Yeah. That makes more sense.
On the West Coast. Put that on the West Coast.
And Fresno, like how like that would just do numbers there, and people would be hyped for it. Right. But I don't think necessarily for a boxing nerd like myself, I would love to see Ryan Garcia and Jose Ramirez. But if Ryan Garcia is just about making bread, then that's not the fight to make. I think Ryan Garcia and Teofimo Lopez would probably be the money fight to make.
But to your point, which Oscar De La Hoya also said he wanted, but to your point about Anthony Joshua earlier, if Ryan Garcia himself, like Anthony Joshua, is a big enough draw, why should the opponent matter? And it's because, remember, we had a conversation with somebody a year ago. I won't give up the person's name, and I'm not going to say that this is an actual thing. It's just a belief that some people have, is that Ryan Garcia is trying to get out the sport early, so he's trying to make as much money as possible, which is not uncommon for, some younger fighters. But it was phrased in a way like, hey, he primarily cares about just maximizing the income, rather. I was going to say the outcome, in terms of just making the biggest fights possible with names, not necessarily just making the best fights. We'll see. I think Jose Ramirez would be a good one because, again, former champion at the division who had a shot at undisputed, but he didn't
look like himself against Josh Taylor. I just want to add that in. It didn't look like the Jose Ramirez that we're used to.
And last point is just what I hope is that Ryan Garcia doesn't just wait around, in the aftermath of this. Like, if you're not gonna fight Jose Ramirez, like, don't wait around. Like, get an opponent.
Yeah. I think for me, for Ryan Garcia, he definitely wants to make the money fights. And to him, that probably makes the most sense. A lot of people also insinuate that, listen, he's not going to be in boxing for a really long time. He might go into movies, whatever, right? Ryan Garcia is that dude. He has a huge social media presence. However, if we're talking about the Ryan Garcia and how he talks about how much he loves the sport and how much he wants to be a winner, how serious he is since he's been training with Derek James, then Jose Ramirez would be the fight,
Right.
right?
Or Arnold
Because
Barbosa.
yeah, because that would actually give him more cachet. People would take him a little bit more seriously. If you have a guy like Jose Ramirez on your resume and you get the W, yeah, we're going to take you a little bit more seriously, right? Because if you think about 140, Ryan Garcia doesn't have the most crazy resume where you're like, he's the best at 140, or you're even placing him in that top five, right? Because when you actually take a look at other people's resumes, you're like, where do you place Ryan Garcia at 140? Like, do you place him in the top five?
Top 10, probably, not top 5.
Yeah.
His best win was Oscar Duarte, and the guy that I held in high regard was Javier Fortuna, but that was because of
Yeah.
his work at, like, featherweight and
Former
shit.
champ. He was a former champ, right?
Right, he was better at featherweight and super featherweight, not fucking 140 or even 135 for that matter.
For sure. But I just think that Ryan Garcia, if he wants to be taken more seriously in the sport, then he's got to make those type of fights. But if he's not going to make the fight with Jose Ramirez and he's not going to make a fight with Arnold Barbosa Jr., he's probably not going to make a fight with a guy like Regis Prograis. And I think the only fight that you're looking at is him and Teofimo Lopez at 140 pounds, or him and Devin Haney.
Because he's not going to fight Subriel Matias either, huh?
He's not. He's not going to make those fights. So if you take a look at 140, there's only two names that he's really gunning for that it makes sense. Him and Teofimo Lopez, and him and Devin Haney. And we know that Teofimo Lopez is not going to be the B-side. We know that Devin Haney's not going to be the B-side. Why should he?
Right.
Why should he be
Right.
the B-side? So if Rolly priced himself out, and I'm not surprised that Rolly did that, there's only two fights to make at this division for Ryan, and it seems like he might be waiting around for a minute because I actually think Devin Haney is a guy that's like, yo, let's make these fights.
Matchroom also has, and this is the zone, so not Oscar De La Hoya, but Matchroom still has Richardson Hitchens also. And I think if you're not fighting Jose Ramirez, you're probably not fighting Richardson Hitchens.
You're not fighting him.
But
no.
These are all guys, by the way, that we're naming that Ryan Garcia should be probably fighting. Richardson Hitchens, Arnold Barbosa, Jose Ramirez. Other than
Subriel Matias.
Subriel Matias, right? Rolly Romero, we mentioned, which would make sense. And I think of all the guys we're mentioning, that's probably the only one that Ryan Garcia would be the favorite against, unless a lot of people just look at the name and start betting him to beat Barbosa, betting him to beat Ramirez. I think most of us who like really follow the sport,
that'd be crazy. Like I think the line for Jose Ramirez and Ryan Garcia might be a little bit close, but I would lean towards Jose because you know how big of a fan of Jose that I am. So for me, it's like I think those are the fights he has to take, but when we're looking at the bigger picture, if it's just about the bread, there's only two fights at 140 pounds that he would make. And Teofimo Lopez, do you want to fight Ryan Garcia? Do you want to make the bread? And Devin Haney, there's always been the back and forth there as well. I don't think I'm missing anyone else, but here at TheMandatory, we want to know how you feel about Ryan Garcia possibly taking Oscar De La Hoya on in the ring because he doesn't want to fight anyone else that Oscar De La Hoya is putting up to be like, you know what, Ryan, you got to fight this guy. Maybe you should fight this guy. It seems like he's denying all of those things. So let us know who you want Ryan Garcia to fight next and who you think he's going to fight next. Drop your comments below. Also, follow us on our social media platforms. We're at TheMandatory TKO. And if you like the content and you like the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Bryan, any final thoughts before we get up and out of here?
Yeah, this feud itself is really interesting between Ryan Garcia and Oscar De La Hoya. Curious to see where it goes. I feel like his days at Golden Boy have to be numbered. And I don't know the particulars of that contract, but I know that any contract is something you can get out of because, you know, I mean, deals are deals, but there's always a way out.
You never know. Maybe on a Jake Paul card, 2038 or something, Ryan Garcia and Oscar De La Hoya. You never know what we might see in this sport now. Thanks so much for rocking with us. We'll be back with some more content soon. Big fight this week as well on the women's side. We're going to have more for you on that. Thanks so much for rocking with us.